How many times do you think about going back to school as an adult? The situation is quite fractured because some people would love to go back to school, some people would hate going back to school. And what is this for? Sometimes it feels like real life and school are two completely detached entities. Why am I studying Jeffrey Chosa? I remember this urgent feeling of anxiety and having to get the best grade or having to study for the other day. And I never understood why we need certain mathematical calculi, but never mind. But I will never forgive the educational system for putting me through that kind of pain. I didn't need it. But the thing is, we become adults, we gain experience. And if we think about it in retrospect, if we think about our school years, sometimes we say, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. I want to disclose 5 practical things I would be doing now if I went back to school. And no, it's not about studying more, studying less, having more fun. It's about practical things that honestly would have saved me so much time. I remember struggling for some stupid things. And number 1, don't be surprised, but this is something which now seems ridiculous to me that it doesn't exist in schools. I'm talking about my experience. I would ask for a curriculum. It's like the program or the syllabus. The first days to get this piece of paper or a PDF file, having that sent to me. Yes, there are books and there's the table of contents and you can read it there. Having something tangible to actually see what I'm doing this year. How am I spending my time? Teachers have this, and truly this would have made it so much easier. Maybe you get it at the end of the year sometimes, but having it at the beginning, I feel it would have been so much better because you get to see all the different topics. Some things are skipped, certain topics are just seen in a hurry and in a rush. Being given a direction right from the very start. When we go to school, it's kind of like you must go to school, you have to, there is no other option. But having a name, having some kind of understanding how this can impact my life, how this can actually result in something good for me, or maybe even knowing a little bit about the curriculum when we consider real life. Because sometimes it feels like real life and school are two completely detached entities. Like I go to school and then there's real life. Okay, I'm studying the past simple. Why is the past simple in the syllabus? Why I need to memorize the parts of my body? Having that curriculum and having some kind of explanation to it, it would have made me so much happier. Honestly, so much happier. Now as a teacher, when I'm explaining something or helping someone in their journey, I try to make it clear to that person why we're doing something. What can that person expect from me? And connected to that, I know this is difficult from a practical point of view, a real experience in which I can use English. What is this for? Why do I need the picture of Dorian Gray? Why do I need to read it? I'm not ashamed to say that I struggled to read school books a lot because I wasn't interested in them, and I started to read them as soon as I left school. I never appreciated learning by heart poetry, poems, and names, dates, etc. I did it because it was my duty. Going to a bookstore and getting this because it is my wish and desire, this happened in adult life. And this happened because I had a reason. I had a purpose. Maybe going to an airport, going to a city center where there are tourists, and being in a context in which I must use the language I'm learning. Having a native speaker or someone who speaks English coming to a lesson and speaking with the students, but speaking about something useful and something they enjoy and they care about, trying to make that connection. Real life experiences have made me want to learn English, and they are making me want to become a better version of myself. I did not care about the Industrial Revolution. I care about it now because I'm an adult and I care about the environment, for example, but that's a real life consequence. So it's a very arduous job for a teacher. I know it's not easy, but I would have loved to have some kind of practicality behind English shown to me. Like, you need this language, or you can really benefit from this language. You can benefit from this book. You can learn so much with this. A lot of teachers are going to hate me for this. The phone and social media are not an enemy. So many professors and educators view the phone as a distraction, as public enemy number one, which, yes, it can be a huge distraction. It is also for me, the other point of view, like I'm the teacher and it can be a distraction to me. So let alone to a student, to a teenager. That's like the bare minimum. When I was going to school, social media were thriving. Social media were starting to be big. I'm still holding the book. You can leverage content which is online, because this is what teenagers now do. They are a lot on their computers, on their smartphones, on the tablets. So instead of making it a prohibition, maybe trying to use it in a useful way. Without social media, me, Paulina, I would have probably never been this good as I am in English. No teacher could have helped me as much as those hours of being on social media did. There are, of course, all the exceptions we need to make. I remember a student, he was struggling with grammar and he was struggling with vocabulary. And then I made a lesson about acronyms, and when we write messages, when we post on social media, kind of slang. And he was great at it. He was so great at it because he uses social media. He uses that type of content. And why not leverage that to actually teach how to also learn standard English? And same thing goes for TV shows and movies and music. Luckily for me, I had a great teacher who was very passionate about cinema, movies, always trying to integrate in her lessons something with music. For example, I remember translating Mamma Mia, I remember Last Christmas, or also What a Wonderful World, which are staples. These are actual staples. And with these songs, I remember learning idioms and the existence of idioms. I also realized by going to the theater and watching English plays, so actual English actors who were traveling around Europe and they happened to be in Rome, my teachers would always encourage us to come to the theater and watch these kind of performances. And it was beautiful. It was so much more interesting than just sitting and using a course book. I highly recommend to any teacher who has young students to do that. Watching TV show in the original language, listening to music, trying to understand what we're listening to, it is great. It opens so many doors when it comes to understanding English. This tip is a little bit less practical. It's more about behavior, but it is probably the most important out of all of the previously mentioned. Paulina, don't be so mad at yourself if you make a mistake. I can't comprehend teachers who make students suffer for their mistakes, who make them worried about their mistakes. I remember panicking, feeling extremely anxious about making mistakes. Whereas now, if I make a mistake, if I don't get it right, it's not a negative thing. The consequences behind language learning mistakes are more positive than negative. If I misspell something, if I don't remember something, if I don't know something, it's not the end of the world. More often than not, it's not an insurmountable problem. I always felt like that was the end of my academic career. It was the end of my prestige, and other people would not love me, and the teachers would think I'm an idiot. Something which is great is to explore why we're making some kind of mistake. Why did I say this and not that? I can't remember why this king did this. I don't understand why this in literature makes sense and this doesn't. It should be more about exploring, not just fighting the language, fighting the teacher, fighting the system. I would have always loved to get this type of approach, not only from an English perspective, in general, from teachers. I would have loved to combine all these tips together and get this as a student. So I truly hope that this video maybe can give you some source of inspiration. If you're an educator, a tutor, a teacher, if you're a student, maybe there's something you can do about this. Paulina from the past is healing as an adult. I'm learning so much about myself. Our approach to students, our approach to the young, it also reflects how they will treat other people in the future, how they will deal with certain issues in the future, how they will raise their kids, or how they will interact with other humans in the future. So yes, it's about English, but not only. It's kind of deeper than that. But I truly hope that this video was some kind of relief to somebody, or if you have any kind of opinion about this, let me know. I'm super curious to read it and to read from you. It's always a pleasure. Down below, you can comment and let me know. Thank you so much. Kind of got emotional, so I will end it here. Thank you. I will see you soon with a new piece of content.